Hello everybody. This is my mother's basement. It's Christmas Day. I visited my folks. I am actually now in my mother's basement. So for those of you, basement. Right now technically I am living in my mother's basement. Like I'm here and I'm living and I'm alive. I'm not a corpse. But when I walk out of this door and go upstairs, I will no longer be living in my mother's basement. So, and it's Christmas Day. Finally got time to do some of these videos, and so we do have a ton of video requests. I'm getting to them today. And so this one, this used to be my old room, and it's just a storage facility now. So anyway, we have this video request. Oh, and as always, if you have a video request or you need guidance and wisdom, you could go to my website, CaptainCapitalism. I'm sorry, not that one. Go to assholeconsulting.com, and we'll set you right. This one comes from Eric, and Eric writes. Hey Clary, this is my second time coming to you for your take on something, and this time I wanted to see if you would make a video out of it for me and my fellow brethren. Basically, I want to know your take on all these personal finance people that are out there, as well as the state of personal finances in America in general. I've been seeing videos from this lady, one Hiane Olin, who was basically crying out that people like Dave Ramsey and Sue Orman et al. Are wrong in the sense that it's not just people's fault that they're fucked economically, but larger socioeconomic factors out of their control. And that's true, you are right. At the same time, I'm a fan of Dave Ramsey simply because he's an asshole to people to the face, especially like how he tore into a whole life insurance salesman. And then again, there are people out there that call him a complete retard. Then we have Kiyosaki out of fucking nowhere talking about buying real estate nonstop and to hell with the market. I just find all this entertaining and want your complete take and, if possible, some general advice for those of us that are skeptical about these people who are obviously not entirely altruistic. Well, I don't know if they're doing a service. I think they're doing the best they can. Are there signs of change as well? Supposedly millennials and the like are becoming less and less materialistic. How would this bode for our society of nonstop buying? And I'm sorry, I gotta take another note. Let me do this. Wisdom effect. Okay, there it is. So here's the deal. With all these financial advice people, I do not for a second believe they are malicious. I don't. I think they're, because I've listened to them, I've watched them, and they are definitely on the up and up, and they're honest and true, and this is the thing, again, I'll kind of explain here a little bit first. When it comes to financial advice and financial planning, no one knows. It's not a finite science. And so these people come up front, that's why they have disclaimers, you know, they have opinions, but not one of them ever says, oh yeah, I know for a fact that this is going to go up. So they always have those legal disclaimers. And so they are trying their best to help you. I don't think anyone, especially since these guys make their money on celebrityship, on their shows, and not managing your portfolio, they don't have an incentive to churn or make more trades so they get more commissions. There's none of those incentives. So these guys I really do believe are on a up and up. The problem though is that they operate from premises that may not universally apply to everyone. In other words, they go back into history. Perfect example. Housing always goes up. Well, yeah, if you're a fucking baby boomer, maybe it did. But not if you're Gen X, and not if you're a millennial, because we had that whole housing crisis. And these premises always, they're right, they're true in the past. Going forward, it may not apply in the future, especially to people who are going to live in the future. Gen X, millennials, whatever future generation. This is why, you know, Social Security is a perfect example. The baby boomers, yeah, I get Social Security. Well, not our generation and not your generation. We have to operate from a different premise. And so when Sue Orman and Dave Ramsey and Kramer and all these guys talk, also keep in mind their audience is not millennials. It really isn't. So they're talking what works for their audience. And in theory, in their mind, will continue to work. These financial principles, these premises will continue to be at play into the future. Where I come in differently, or contrarians, or Peter Schiffs, or other people, we start saying, whoa, wait a minute, Social Security isn't going to be there potentially. And then, oh, wait a minute, did you see what happened in Cyprus? And oh, wait a minute, I know they told you young kids that your Roth IRA, that won't be taxed in the future, but look what happened in Bulgaria, Argentina, Hungary, Poland, all these other places. Now, then you get the people who are old and operate from these premises and are stupid and are just so, everything is awesome. They think like, oh, you cynical fool, you. They'd never take your stuff. It will be there forever. Everything's going to be great. And then you get called names because you dare to ask whether or not the government would be evil and the Democrats would be vicious enough to just confiscate and nationalize your pensions. So that's where the times are changing, so the premises by which future investing are going to change as well. Now, the other thing is that the advice that they're giving, they truly do mean it for everyone. I don't think they've thought about, well, does it mean something different for millennials and younger people? But regardless, because they're not operating for premises that future generations are going to have to operate by, their advice is technically wrong. And I can't even say it's wrong because, yeah, you should do those things. Yes, if you get a match, you should contribute to your 401k. This is not bad advice they're giving. I mean, these are things that you should be doing, but there should be a caveat. There should be a but or a warning sign or an asterisk. And that's what I try and do in my finance classes is I teach a traditional, I teach the exact same thing these guys do. You know, it's like the traditional 401k, this is how it should work and operate. But, and then there's a whole paragraph about the risk of, 401k confiscation and all that other stuff. And then sure, I get patted on the head for being conspiratorial and, oh, you're one of those people that recommends buying guns and silver. Whoa. It's like, yeah, wait till it happens, dipshit. So, realize they're not really talking to you. They're not putting their shows on for the millennials, right? This is why, not to brag, this is why I think I resonate pretty well with the younger generations, because I am speaking to them. They assume that you're like, their advice assumes you have a job, you have a house, you have a family, you have no student loans. And now I know I'm throwing a lot of people into, I know Dave Ramsey is much more tough. He's like, oh, why'd you spend all that money? And then Sue Zorman does that thing, can you afford it? So they're not, I'm for the sake of this argument and debate, I know they are aware of these other things, it's just how they present it. But, arrogance and cockiness aside, I fucking nailed the education bubble miles away with a sniper scope. I hit that motherfucker square in the head. I warn you about I talk to you about minimalism. I tell you not to go and buy stupid cars. I tell you not to go and buy fancy clothes. What else? I warn you about the risks of home ownership and how it anchors you down. I try and tell you, hey, location independence, the internet, that would allow you, so you should really just have like an apartment, and heck, you could live in a van if you wanted to. So those are the things that are very specific and trained to the millennials, specific to Gen X and younger people. But wouldn't work for old farts who worked at the factory for 35 years and got their fucking gold watch. So it's not that, and here's the other thing, these people, not only have they been trained and lived in the environment where we go traditional 401k, traditional planning and stuff like that, their clientele, the people that have the money are the baby boomers. That's really is what it is. So what advice are they going to give you? Their advice is not investing in retirement planning. That's not going to apply to millennials, because like, what money? What job? What 401k contribution? I didn't make a 401k contribution till God Almighty. What was the 401k IRA? What was I, 29, 30? Because I didn't even have the money. It was like just trying to get by. Millennials are in the same situation. We're Gen Xers too. You got student loans. You majored in some worthless fucking thing. You got to get out of that hole. You are like 15 years behind. You're not going to be able to make a fucking 401k contribution until you're what, 40, 45? And forget buying a house. I know some people are, but it's a different set of rules that the younger people are going to be operating by. So these people assume all these, well, it's not that they assume, they just can't advise you. They're advising people with money, whereas the younger generations, it's, you don't have money, now what personal financial moves can you make? This is why if you look at the financial advice I give the younger people on Ansel Consult and all this other stuff, it's usually, it's not investment planning, it's certainly not retirement planning, it's how do I unfuck myself up? I have a video, one of my more popular ones is what to do if I fucked up. And it's like, okay, you gotta work the double time. You got to entrepreneurship. You got to assume Social Security won't be there. Don't buy super minimalism, all that stuff. It's personal financial living advice, not investing or retirement advice. And then maybe once all that shit is finally said and done, then you go have kids and fuck it all up again. No, I'm kidding. Then maybe you can start thinking about retirement planning, but not until that time. I mean, you got like all this fucking debt you guys are carrying. So there's that. Now, your final question about millennials and the minimalism effect. Either through whether I've told you people read my books, which I'm not that popular, so I don't think I've affected the millennials that much. But what has affected the millennials is the education bubble and the shitty-ass economy that you guys voted in for with Barack Hussein Obama and the fucking communists. And, you know, you guys have underemployment rates of, what, 40%, some ungodly high percent, and then unemployment rates of 16%. Absolutely horrible. That is what's going to drive, and your student debts that you got for your worthless degrees. That's the universal, nationwide economic effect that is going to drive the millennials to minimalism, or a significant percentage of them. And it's not like they're going to have, it doesn't even have to be a conscious epiphany of like, holy shit, I'm poor and I got to get by. Oh, I can get by on pretty cheap. You know, I can get by on $8 an hour. I can. It's going to be just economic reality, the harsh economic reality. You don't have the money. And one thing a lot of realtors are worried about are the millennials not buying. And yeah, the toilet is, the plumbing is right here. That's what it was. So that's feces and Lord knows what else being flushed down the toilet right now. I'll wait for it. Oh wait, they decided to do laundry? No, that was the toilet. So, anyway, what was I saying? Oh, so that is what's going to drive them to minimalism, is blunt, harsh economic force. And a concern a lot of realtors have is that they're never good. If you had student loans, how the fuck are you going to afford a house? And if you're like me, I mean, one of the biggest driving factors in the reason I never had kids, I couldn't afford them. I could barely support myself. And so that's what's going to, so people are not only going to less likely to buy houses, they are less likely to have kids, which means you're going to have a smaller house. Condos, I think, is, you know, that's where people are going to go. And then when you throw in that there's no economic stability or growth and there's no reliable jobs out there, they're going to be like, I'm not going to take any risk. I mean, I think we all learned our lesson in the housing bubble. And then, what was the other thing? So no kids. Oh, and then, since all the opportunities are going to, you can't have any stability in any fucking location, why are you going to anchor yourself to a 30-year mortgage or a 30-year house when you're like, you got to move to Vegas, you got to move here just to capitalize your fucking nomadic generation? So I think the renting or the condos, and that's going to have a huge effect on the housing market. So yeah, the minimalism that's either going to be realized through contemplation of the millennial generation, or forced through brute economic reality and force. That's going to make the millennials less spenders. And the one thing I'll give the millennial generation, I haven't seen you guys drop $80 on Cavaricci jeans. I haven't seen it. That was what we did in the 80s. Well, I didn't because I didn't have the money. But I mean, you guys really don't piss away your money because you don't have any money to piss away. You're not into this fake, you know, oh, I got to have brand name something. That has seemed to go away, which is a good thing. It's just, you guys are fucking idiots voting in socialists. You really haven't thought about much about economics. But that's a different debate. But still, yes, this minimal, and oh, another perfect thing, how it's going to have an effect on the markets. I apologize. Absolutely, as these baby boomers pull out of the markets and retire and switch from equities to bonds, there will be downward pressure on stock prices. Of course, when you have the federal government using quantitative easing and interest rates are so low, corporations are buying back hundreds of billions of dollars of their stock, and the banks, now this money, I won't go through the machinations of it, but it inevitably ends up in the stock market. So that has been driving it up. But if you look at the valuations, like the stock values, not prices, values, like, okay, I pay how much and what do I get in return? Things like PE ratios, dividend yields, it's not worth it. It just isn't worth it. So I think down the road you'll see, as the baby boomers retire and they liquidate their assets and their portfolios and the housing and stocks are dumped out into the market, you're going to have downward pressure on on stock prices. But that would not negate if you have an inflationary environment like we do now, where all this money and these trillions of dollars is ending up in the stock market. So it could be like Zimbabwe. The stocks are going up, not because earnings or economic growth or dividends are higher, but simply because there's more money in the market. That's it. So if you want to buy stocks, you know, that's up to you. But there's that. Regardless, until the millennials have money to buy these overpriced stocks, they're just not going to have the money. They just aren't. And so I think there will be downward pressure on stock. Every asset class, I think, will have downward pressure in real terms, but inflationarily adjust because central banks, not just here in the U.S., but Japan and Europe, you're going to have bubbles of sort. They're going to be inflated up, not necessarily real increases of value up, if that makes any sense. So anyway, thanks for the question. That was a great question. And again, if any of you guys got a question or need some kind of advice or wisdom, and it doesn't have to be a video, it can just email. We keep it private. Go to www.assholeconsulting.com. Tools.